World War II ended over 73 years ago, and yet a few World War II-era warships are still in frontline service today. I'm not talking about preserved museum relics or commissioned ships that only undertake ceremonial duties, but ships that actually still have a role to play in defending their respective nations. One such nation is the Philippines, which operates two Ork-class minesweepers of World War II US Navy vintage. The BRP Quezon and Rizal are now classified as patrol corvettes, helping to protect the vast waters of the Philippine Islands since being transferred from the US Navy in the late 1960s. The Quezon is quite special, having actually seen action in the Pacific War. Launched in April 1943, the vessel was built by the Americans for the British Royal Navy as part of the Lend-Lease program under the name HMS Exploit. However, requirements changed, and the Americans decided to retain the vessel as the USS Vigilance. Commissioned on the 28th of February 1944, Vigilance was an 890-ton, 220-foot-long minesweeper with a crew of 80 men. Her duties included helping to escort convoys between Pearl Harbor in Hawaii and the Marshall Islands. She was then involved in local escort duties between Guam, Peleliu, and Ulithi. During the Battle of Okinawa in 1945, USS Vigilance performed minesweeping and anti-submarine patrols and added her guns to helping shoot down Japanese kamikaze planes. After the destroyer escorts USS Whitehurst and England were hit by kamikazes, Vigilance helped with firefighting and casualty evacuation. The vessel was awarded 3 battle stars for her World War II service. Her sister ship, now the BRP Rizal, was commissioned as the USS Maralet in August 1945, but was too late to see service in the Pacific War, operating as a minesweeper around Japan in 1946. In the mid-1960s, Vigilance and Maralet were transferred to the Philippine Navy, where they have served ever since. The Philippine ship BRP Miguel Malvar is a corvette originally built as USS PCER 852, a rescue patrol craft escort. Commissioned into the US Navy on the 26th of May 1944, the vessel served in the Atlantic. On the 1st of August 1944, she sailed from Bermuda to Norfolk, Virginia, carrying 26 German U-boatmen captured off the submarine U-505 that is now on display at the Museum of Science and Technology in Chicago. Transferred to the Pacific, the vessel helped to treat wounded sailors and soldiers, undertook anti-submarine warfare patrols at Leyte Gulf and Lingayen Gulf, and fought at Okinawa. During 6 months in the Pacific theater, the little ship dealt with 1,300 dead, critically wounded, or shipwrecked U.S. personnel. In the 1940s and 50s, she was used to test experimental equipment before being transferred to the South Vietnamese Navy in 1966. The vessel escaped to the Philippines in 1975 as Saigon fell to the Communists. In 1976, she was acquired by the Philippine Navy along with 4 other former World War II US Navy rescue patrol craft, or Admirable-class minesweepers, that are currently serving in 2019. The 5 vessels are used as patrol corvettes and are some of the oldest active fighting ships left in the world. One of the class, the BRP Magat Salamat, is a former Admirable-class minesweeper, USS Gaiety, that suffered a near miss from a Japanese 500-pound bomb during the Battle of Okinawa that killed several of her crew. The Philippine Navy also operates 2 World War II-era tank landing ships, BRP Laguna and Benguet. Laguna entered U.S. Navy service as the USS LST-230 in November 1943 and took part in the D-Day landings in June 1944 and Operation Dragoon, the Allied landings in southern France in August. The vessel won 2 battle stars before being transferred to the Shipping Control Authority in Japan in 1952. Transferred to the Philippine Navy in 1976, the vessel continues to serve. The other LST, Benguet, also took part in Operation Dragoon in August 1944 as the USS LST-692 and also served in the Korean War, earning 1 battle star for World War II and 2 for Korea. She was also transferred to the Philippines in 1976 and is in frontline service. The former U.S. Army freight supply ship FS-524 serves today as the BRP Mangyun. During World War II, this vessel, manned by U.S. Coast Guard personnel, fought in the Pacific before being transferred to the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force in 1955. In 1979, the vessel entered Filipino service as an auxiliary. Thailand operates a single World War II-era warship within its modern fleet. HTMS Pin Klao is the former Cannon-class destroyer escort USS Heminger, commissioned in May 1944. She operated anti-submarine patrols in the Pacific and helped screen the aircraft carriers during kamikaze attacks on the fleet off Okinawa. She was transferred to Thailand in 1959 and is currently used as a salute ship, still armed with her World War II-era Mark 22 3-inch guns. The Russian Navy operates one of the world's oldest active service ships, the submarine tender Kommuna. Kommuna is a submarine salvage ship commissioned into the Russian Imperial Navy in 1915. During World War I, she served Russian and British submarines. Following the Russian Revolution, she served with the Red Navy, salvaging submarines, including the Royal Navy's HMS L-55 in 1928, which had been lost in the Gulf of Finland in 1919. Based in Leningrad in 1941, she recovered valuable military equipment lost in Lake Lagoda during the siege. In 1999, the old vessel, now serving in the Russian Federation Navy, was redesignated a rescue ship. In 2009, she was fitted with a British-built submarine rescue submersible Pantera Plus and is currently based at Sevastopol. Not bad for a 104-year-old ship. The Vietnamese People's Navy captured the former U.S. Navy tank landing ship USS Maricopa County in 1975 from the South Vietnamese. LST-938, as she was in World War II, was commissioned in September 1944 and had an important role in the Pacific. On the 10th of March 1945, she put ashore elements of the U.S. 41st Infantry Division during the invasion of Mindanao in the Philippines. She later transported elements of the Australian 7th Infantry Division to assault Balikpapan on Borneo. At war's end, the vessel brought part of the occupation force to Japan and served in China until mid-1946. Reactivated for the Korean War, she was a U.S. Marine Corps training ship. She entered South Vietnamese service in 1966 and was captured during the fall of Saigon in April 1975. The Egyptian Navy retains 2 World War II-era British warships in its fleet. The Tariq is the former Black Swan-class frigate HMS Wimbrel. Commissioned in January 1943, Wimbrel served in the Atlantic on convoy escort work, then the Pacific, and was present in Tokyo Bay at the Japanese surrender. Transferred to Egypt in 1954 and renamed Tariq, it is currently a training ship. In 2006, an attempt was launched to purchase the ship from Egypt and bring her to Liverpool as a museum ship and memorial to the Battle of the Atlantic, but the deal unfortunately fell through. Egypt also has the former HMS Zenith, serving since 1955 as the El Fatah, a Z-class destroyer commissioned originally in December 1944. She arrived in the Far East after the war finished and then served with the home fleet until 1950. Transferred to Egypt in 1955, she was modernized in England in the early 1960s. In September 2017, it was reported her name, El Fatah, had been transferred to a new Egyptian warship, and the old HMS Zenith's fate remains murky, but she probably remains as a training vessel at Alexandria. Along with the former HMS Wimbrel, efforts are afoot to save her as a museum in Britain. Operating as a rescue and salvage ship is the former USS Grapple, a diver-class World War II vessel commissioned in December 1943. On the 15th of June 1944, Grapple shot down a Japanese dive bomber in the Pacific and seriously damaged another. She took part in the invasion of Guam, pulling stranded landing craft off the beaches and repairing damaged ships under Japanese fire. During the Battle of the Philippines in Mindanao Gulf, she was attacked by kamikazes while salvaging a Liberty ship, and she drove them off with her own gunfire. In 1945, Grapple earned a Navy unit citation. Later, she assisted the burning aircraft carrier USS Randolph before heading home. During the Korean War, Grapple served alongside the British fleet and then became a floating laboratory as US Navy doctors worked frantically to control a typhoid epidemic sweeping Korea. Anchored off Wonsan, Grapple was hit by enemy shore batteries and then later hit by friendly fire, losing several crew killed and wounded. She was sold to Taiwan in 1977 and is now named the Dahu. Mexico operates as patrol vessels 11 former Ork-class minesweepers. In Serbia is found probably the only World War II-era German ship still in use, the Kozara, a headquarters ship. Built for the Kriegsmarine in Linz in 1939, the Kozara has always worked on the Danube River. In 1945–46, the vessel was used to house US troops at Regensburg in Bavaria and was later a floating restaurant. In 1960, it was acquired by Yugoslavia. She can transport 250 troops and is armed with 20mm Oerlikon guns. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, share and help support my channel via PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.